The numbers told the story. They always do.
He's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
This is a numbers game with Gill Alexander on VSiN.
Hour number 2 of a numbers game at VSiN, the sports betting network. VSiN.com, the VSiN app, Game Plus, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV. All proudly brought to you by BetMGM. It's Gill Alexander. It's Kelley Bydlon. Still to come on the show, Mike Renner from Pro Football Focus. We'll ask him about the NFL draft, and we'll ask him about his time on The Bachelorette. Was it rigged? Was it authentic?
Was it rigged?
Were you upset when you got eliminated? These are the things I want to know about. Draft schmaft.
Me too.
As my mother would say.
How much coaching do you get from producers and stuff? You know what I mean?
About that. Why don't we have him on for? No, okay, I was gonna say let's do 2 seconds. Let's do 2. Before we get to Paul Sporer, because I can't wait to talk baseball with Paulie. I just wanted to clarify because we were talking at the end, and Kelley had his moneyline parlay, and if you've listened to a numbers game long enough, you know nobody loves a good tank like I do. Tankapalooza 2018, one of the great betting stretches here, because that was when tanking was really tanking, when the worst team in the NBA draft got 25% of the ping pong balls, and then there was a drop-off. And if you remember, no one tanked better than the Phoenix Suns that year, who went 0-27 down the stretch against other non-tanking teams. Devin Booker with random hand injuries. They ended up drafting DeAndre Ayton number 1 in the subsequent draft. Now, since then, the NBA has changed the rules. So here is my cautionary tale for everybody who's like, oh, it's tanking season in the NBA. San Antonio's lost 16 in a row. Houston's lost 9 in a row. Detroit's lost 5 in a row. And now Charlotte just lost LaMelo Ball. Well, here's the problem. Problem when it comes to this tanking narrative. So if you finish in the bottom 3, you get 14% of the ping pong balls each. If you finish 4th, you get 4th worst, you get 12.5% of the ping pong balls in the NBA draft lottery. The problem is if you look at the standings, there's no one, quote unquote, competing with those teams at the bottom. So I guess what I'm saying is San Antonio's won 14 basketball games. Houston's won 13. Detroit has won 15. Charlotte is 4th with 20, and then it's a jump up to 26, so which is Orlando. So I guess what I'm saying, Kelley, is these teams that are tanking, yes, they're losing, but between now and the end of the season, they have leeway to win basketball games, and it won't matter.
Oh, I think there's, no, you're right. I think it's the time of now in the past week or two where you're seeing these teams. Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing the Spurs and Rockets go into that mode, but you're right. In a week from now, week and a half from now, they might be completely out of even contention with these other teams. So
people really stop with the tanking narrative because it doesn't make sense mathematically. These teams can show up when you least expect this year. So don't go crazy with that. Let's talk some baseball. Yes, Paul Sporer joins us, ladies and gentlemen, from Fangraphs. At Sporer, Sporer, just puts a smile on my face to see him with his Expos hat. Look at that, Montreal Expos vintage cap. How you doing, Paulie?
I'm great, Gill. It's baseball season. It's time. We're back.
We were joking about you on Twitch earlier when we were introducing you, and Chris Felica, the Bear, now on Fox Sports. He wrote, he goes, today on ANG, we have Paul Sporer to discuss his massive comeback last night on Twitch against his 5th grade opponent on Dynasty Baseball. Do you like that? That's how I should introduce you next time. How's the Twitch thing coming?
It's going great.
What is it, Sporer.tv?
It's just Sporer. No, twitch.tv/Sporer.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, though, the funny thing is the 5th grader would smoke me.
He or she would.
I mean, the kids are the ones that are going to get you. You know, I got a much better chance against somebody my age or older.
Twitch.tv/Sporer for all of that. And we would watch it during primetime action. We would actually watch it off air. It was awesome. All right, let me begin. Before we even get into your bets, let's start with rule changes because I want to see if any of these might indicate some sort of macro way to bet early in the season. And we'll go through the rule changes. Do we have the graphic, Kelley, for the rule changes in baseball? Obviously, there are multiple. First of all, bigger bases increased from 15 inches to 18 inches on each side. Let's not sleep on that one. But then there's the shift limitations. I got to be careful how I say that. Must have 2 infielders. Must have 2 infielders on each side of second base until the pitch is thrown, I believe, and then they can start moving. Pitch clock: 15 seconds when bases are empty, 20 seconds when runners are on. And then, by the way, there's the reverse of that, which we've now seen really manifest in exhibition season, which is the batter's got to be in the box before it's 8 seconds.
Yep.
Then there's pickoffs, pitchers limited to 2 quote-unquote disengagements, I like that word, per plate appearance. Now, we've seen a game end as a tie in the preseason here, in the exhibition season, grapefruit, cactus. Do you believe this will be enforced similarly, obviously not with a tie, but that it will be enforced just as conscientiously once the regular season begins? Let's start there.
Right when it begins, yes. Will it last all year? It could start to fade a little bit. That kind of happens with some of these rule changes. We get set in our ways and get back to the way it used to be. But I mean, with the clock there, you can't really ignore it. So it'll be pretty hard to not keep going with that. But maybe the 8 seconds with the batters, because they don't have a clock there, maybe that starts to get a little bit of peel back on it. But I think once the season starts, yeah, this stuff's going to be pretty intense off the jump.
I don't know if that can trigger any betting. This one,
I don't think so either.
Yeah, this one might though, and I floated this to Josh Towers at one point, which is the pitching limitations, the 15 seconds when the bases are empty, the 20 seconds when the runners are on. I sort of floated the theory. Let's take relief pitchers. Let's take closers. Like I used Aroldis Chapman because Aroldis Chapman is the guy that I think of as he throws a pitch, then he takes a walk around the mound, right, before he gets ready to throw another 100-mile-per-hour. I'm wondering if it affects flame-throwing relievers, like closers like that, who will now not get that time in between pitches, will have to throw quicker, and totals, let's say, might be artificially muted early on before books adjust. Am I reaching?
No, I think there could be something to that on the macro. It's going to be hard to know exactly who. There's going to be certain guys for sure. One of the big reasons that velo's up over these last, 10 years or so, or just kind of keeps going up year after year, is teams learn that, we were talking about video games earlier. Basically, when you're idle in a video game, you regain stamina. Well, that's the same thing in real life for pitchers. The longer you take in between pitches, the harder that you can throw. And so guys have slowed down big time. Pedro Baez is probably the most chronic offender. You can literally go get a snack, use the restroom in between his pitches and not miss a single bit of action. It's going to impact some of these guys for sure. Others are going to take to it just fine. They're going to get in their rhythm. They're going to go Mark Burley style. That's more on a starter versus reliever thing. I do think that there are going to be some of these flamethrowers because, you saw with Aroldis Chapman, everyone says, he still throws 96, 97. When you throw 99, 100, no matter what it is, if you lose 3 miles, even if the level you come down to is still good, you're losing 3 miles off of where you were great. And so anybody that's losing multiple miles per hour because of this is going to be hit. And so we will see impacts with it. And I do think totals is probably the best that you could get, or maybe in-game betting.
In-game
where you're
totals,
saying, yeah, you're kind of watching those in-game totals and the 3 flamethrowers are coming out and all 3 of them, might be hit. You can go the other way with it. So, yeah, I think that's probably where you could best leverage that right now.
I agree with that, and that's why I bring it up because, we're looking for any possible edge we can get and getting ahead of any books adjusting. And obviously there's a lot of ifs, if they enforce it as they are now, if they're consistent with the pitch clock, and it just doesn't, somehow fade away into oblivion. So there's a lot of ifs. But if you're looking for a way to perhaps exploit early in the season, that might just be it based on 2023 season rule changes.
I agree.
All right. Let's talk then about, because you have access to books now and you're looking at different bets. Shall we begin with season win totals? Let's start there. Yeah. Let's start with, we have a few minutes here to talk about your favorite over bets. What are your favorite overs?
I'm a stupid person, and so I don't learn lessons when a team burns me. For example, let's say I would foolishly, pick this team to win the World Series, and they just blow up spectacularly with like a 14-game losing streak in the middle of the season. Most people say, okay, well, I'll stay away from that. I won't touch that hot stove again. I put my face on the hot stove, and I'm going to go with the Angels.
Oh, no.
I'm coming back.
Oh, Jesus.
Over 81.5. I still believe in this team. Well, I re-believe in them because if they had stayed status quo, no shot. But the fact that they've done moves, and I've liked their moves, they still have 2 of the best players in all of baseball. I'm back on the Angels here. I like the additions of Tyler Anderson. full season of Reed Detmers, potentially Jose Suarez. I like the Brandon Drury and Hunter Renfroe pickups. Full season of Taylor Ward. He was hurt. Once he came back and got healthy again, he was great. I'm back in on the Angels.
Wow. You put your whole face on it, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
One of these years is going to be right.
Maybe
Any other overs you like?
This one's tough because of their division, but I really like the Baby Snakes. I'm in on the Diamondbacks over 74.5. And, I just think this team has a ton of talent, and it's not just their offense, which they should kind of flex last year. There is more beyond Gallant. Now, I hated the re-signing of Zach Davies because he takes a spot from one of these young guys. They got Ryan Nelson, Dre Jameson, Brandon Pfaadt, all three that I think could be impact guys, and they basically took a spot from one of them right now. All three of them are battling for the 5 spot. No Mad Bum's going to get his chance at innings there as long as he's pitching. But Merrill Kelly's solid. So if you're looking at Gallen, the youngsters, Kelley, and Bumgarner, it's not bad either. Bullpen isn't very good, but they don't need to be a great team here. I think they started to show where they're at. 74 is what they won last year. They only have to win another game or two, in which I definitely think they can, because I think at least the top of the division has come back a little bit.
I'll save this question for after the break because I want to get into the weeds. Because I do, when I do season win totals, I rely a lot on Pythagorean theorem, Bill James Pythagorean theorem, not the stuff you learned in geometry class in 10th grade, and base runs. And I'll just want to get your thoughts on that. We'll get to any other overs Paul might have, but certainly his unders on season win totals and his futures plays as well. Anything else he's betting as spring training is here. Grapefruit, cactus. A lot of people love betting exhibition baseball. I'm not one of those, but some people swear by it. If you can get ahead of that information, that's a way to play it as well. More with Paul Sporer. Futures plays for the 2023 season next. Numbers Game, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
A numbers game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you're looking for a betting edge on the NHL, NBA, or college basketball, the VSiN experts have got you covered. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber with an introductory offer of only $9.99. VSiN Pro subscribers get access to our daily recap of the top plays made by VSiN show hosts and guests. Tools like our betting splits, deep dive betting reports, VSiN betting guides for the biggest games of the season, where our experts break down brackets, best bets, and daily props. Don't miss out, though. It's a limited time offer. You should know that, and you should act now. Visit VSiN.com/subscribe today to sign up for only $9.99. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. A whole bunch of tweets to get to, but I just want to read this one because this has to do with Paulie. Scott, New York Mets 16. Last year, I thought Paul Sporer was not old enough to partake in adult beverages, but today he looks like a private eye in disguise. The stash is incredible, and the Clark Kent-style glasses. The man has style. And with that, we bring in Paul Sporer back, kind enough to join us for a couple of segments. Paul, we're going to have you on for multiple segments this week. Are you amenable to that if we have you back?
I am.
Okay.
I am indeed.
Is the mustache thicker, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's getting better.
I thought it looked...
Less of a dirt stash.
What does the girlfriend say about the mustache? She likes it?
She co-signs.
Co-signs, okay.
Yeah. I thought it looked good last time around. I think it looks even better now.
Paul Sporer, by the way, can I just, for the new audience, Paul Sporer is 6'5" tall, ladies and gentlemen. He's built like Chris Sale.
Yep. Or those inflatable men out in front of car dealerships.
He's our tallest guest. So lest you think he does not get adult beverages, he will tower over you.
I'll be carded forever, but I also don't drink.
I'm looking forward to the first time I get to meet Paul in person, Gill, because you have brought this up multiple times, and it's still going to surprise me when I see him in person.
The first time Paul and I
next month.
You're coming in next month?
I'll be in Vegas next month.
Beautiful,
dude. Can I get you down to the South Point? I know it's a big ask.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
First time.
Yes.
First time Paul and I ever met in person was in an airport line in McCarran Airport. And it was one of those ones that weaves back and forth. So like it became kind of awkward
because
we like had to hey again.
What's up? And we didn't want to be rude to each other, but
can't be rude.
We're not saying anything else to each other.
How you doing, Paul? Nice to see you again. All right, so you like the two overs. You like, good God, bless your heart. You love the Angels again over. You like the Diamondbacks over. Were there any other overs, or those were the two?
No, I got another one that you're gonna make fun of.
Okay,
but I got the A's.
Oh, well, that's not. I mean, that's how can we put this? A low bar to get over.
True. It is. So, it's 59.5 if you shop at 6. I think 60 at DraftKings, but then I saw another site that had 59.5. So, I don't think they're worse than last year. I really don't. And one of the things I basically lost this kind of bar bet with my podcast co-host because he was saying, "Oh, they're going to be so terrible." I was like, I know it looks bad on paper, but they don't ever really bottom out with 100-loss seasons. Their last 100-loss season was 79, and so of course they dropped one on my face last year, and I was definitely wrong. But they're going to play a bunch of those young guys. They have some decent veterans. I think it's going to be standard issue crap where it's like upper 60s, low 70s. I don't think they'll be that bad again. I think a lot of their guys are going to start, their young guys are going to play and be decent. Yes, they might trade off some pieces, but it's not like some ringing endorsement of Oakland. It's just that I don't think they're that terrible. They don't usually sink as low as they did last year, and I think they'll start their slow trek back up this year with a few extra wins.
Real quick for people who are new to this, Bill James' Pythagorean theorem is essentially a tried and true formula of team scores this amount of runs in a season, they give up this amount of runs in a season, and based on that, they should have a expected win percentage. And to the degree that you overperform that or underperform that, you can sort of make assessments of where that team starts at a baseline moving into the next season when you're assessing season win totals. It's also the case with sequencing, which has different sort of permutations, but let's just call it sequencing. 4 events can happen every inning in a base. Let's just use 4 events in a baseball inning, half inning. Let's say the sequence of those events are home run, walk, strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. You end up with 1 run. But if you reverse those same 7 elements and it's walk, home run, strikeout, 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 you score 4 runs. And so there's
completely different.
Yeah, there's sequencing good fortune and bad fortune, both on offense and defense. And based on how a team does with that in a year, you can sort of project forward in the next year. How much do you rely on both of those things?
I think they're both very important. I look at both of them. I'm always looking at Pythag. I play a lot of out of the park baseball, and they put that in there as well. So you can kind of know how your team's doing and have an idea there. Yeah, and they do the whole standings breakdown. You have your 1 run, your extra innings, and so when we have a bad team, when I'm streaming and we have a bad team, and we're like, why are we 15 games over? Oh, it's because we're 22-1 in 1-run games or some garbage like that.
That
so
is
I know
awesome
there's going to be regression.
Include that. That's awesome.
That's great. Listen,
yeah.
Out of the park baseball. I play MLB The Show and out of the park baseball, 2 vastly different experiences. But actual GMs in baseball play out of the park. Some cut their teeth on it, learned how, and I'm not saying it's the same as running a team, but you get a lot of the similar experiences. I've learned so much on how to manage a roster, an MLB roster, that's actually helped me with fantasy and kind of guessing who's going to be called up and who is going to be down longer because, there's not a 40-man spot open. So, yeah, I can't sing the praises of OOTP high enough. That said, I also work for them now, so it's more of just promoting a place I work as opposed to a game that I've always loved.
I remember when you had that announcement. You work there now at OTP. You are the most fascinating man in baseball. Dude, you should have an intern that should just follow you around and learn the game of baseball.
Boy. I could use that.
Okay, well, before we solicit interns, let's do. I'm really curious to hear about your unders on season win totals because specifically, there's a couple clubs that, including myself, people are really bullish about, and I'm wondering if you're going to go contrarian. I'll save those to the end in case you don't name them. But what are some of your favorite under bets?
I'm kind of down on the Dodgers, and so they're the main one right now. This is even before the Gavin Lux news, which is devastating. I'm so bummed about that. I love Gavin Lux. Was actually big on him for a big breakout this year. Now he's ripped up his knee. It looks like he's cooked. They don't have that Avengers lineup anymore right now, where it's 1 to 9. Where's the out? It's half and half. I think it's half excellent lineup and then half these are on the 2023 Dodgers, and it's not because they're bad players, it's just because of the level that we've expected from the Dodgers. They also don't have the extreme pitching depth. Now they do have some youth, and if that youth comes quickly, Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone, Ryan Pepio, Andre Jackson, that could give them that depth. But as it stands right now, they've got a crusty ace who is probably 120, 130 inning guy. Urias and Gonsolin are susceptible to the shift alterations. I love Thor, and I hope they regenerate him. But are they going to find 4 miles an hour of velo? Are they going to find a swing and miss breaking pitch that he hasn't had? If they do, that'd be great. I would love it. It'd be another box on Mark Pryor's resume. So I'm rooting for it, but I'm not sure I see it. Can Dustin May go more than 130? I mean, we've never fully seen it. They're going to have a good bullpen because they're always good at building a good bullpen. But I just see, a good team here. I don't necessarily see the powerhouse untouchable. So 96.5, 95.5. I think the Dodgers are going to come in under this year. I think they're going to let the kids play, and it's going to be a bit of a good, not great year.
Yeah, for years we would, when we do season win totals, we would always be really cautionary when it came to teams that had really high season win totals. And then the last few years, where the haves and the have-nots have sort of gotten wider and wider, these season win totals have gotten into cartoon areas. And so now, the notion of going under on any team that has 95.5 used to be like, oh yeah, sure, you do that. But these days, when you say that about the Dodgers, there is, the common person now says, oh boy, it's the Dodgers though. That didn't used to be how our brains worked though.
I understand that totally, but I do think that some of the have-nots are going to rise up and get a few more games. Obviously I mentioned the Diamondbacks, so those two kind of go hand in hand. The Diamondbacks can help me win the Dodgers one. And, they also don't get to just beat up on Colorado all year this year as much with the less balanced schedule. Yeah. Again, it's not completely changed. But yeah, I just think some of these lower teams are going to rise. It has been that haves, have-nots, but I gave the A's, I gave the D-backs. I think that the Royals have a chance to be somewhat decent. I think the Rangers are a team that's on the come up. And so I see and the Cubs, I think, could be a team that goes over 80. I didn't pick them as an over, but I like a lot of what they did. So I do think some of these teams are going to rise up, pull down from Braves, Mets, Astros, Padres, Dodgers, etc.
Just to be clear, that I was sort of corroborating that we've gotten into this weird 3 or 4 year range that was not the case before that, right? So what you're talking about was more conventional thought from years ago. And maybe we've just gone through a little historical anomaly. Any other unders, real quick? We have about a minute.
The Phillies. I'm going with the Phillies on, kind of the World Series hangover thing. I know they didn't win it, but they went all the way. They obviously played a bit over their skis there in the playoffs. They got hot at the right moment. Trey Turner's a big ad, but he's only a half-year ad because for the first half of the year, he's essentially replacing Harper. Obviously, the makeup of their skills is different, but it's not a raw ad the way bringing in a player like that normally is, because they lost their other super duper star. And so I like, their two aces out front, but I'm not sure that they're going to push 90 wins. It's 89.5 is what I'm seeing. I think they're a decent club, but I think they're probably closer to a repeat, if not a few wins off of the 87 win pace from last year.
All right, Paulie, I'm glad you didn't say Orioles. I'm glad you didn't say Rangers. That was what I was worried about.
Love the Rangers.
Yeah. They were the kings of Pythagorean theorem and sequencing from this past year in terms of underperforming that. Let's have you back later in the week, if not tomorrow, okay?
Sounds great.
My man. Paul Sporer, great to see you. At Sporer, Sporer on Twitter. The most fascinating man in baseball. Love Paulie. We'll come back. Mike Renner, the NFL lead draft analyst over at Pro Football Focus and former Bachelorette contestant. Next.
A numbers game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
In addition to new shows, VSiN will kick off new podcasts to give every bettor the insights, tools, and confidence to make smarter betting decisions. VSiN continues to expand its catalog of popular sports betting podcasts to cover every corner of the sports betting menu. No matter what sports you like to bet or how experienced you are, you'll find a podcast for you. The VSiN College Basketball Betting Podcast is some of the best college hoops analysis around, breaking down the betting odds, lines, and totals. Host Tim Murray hosting 3 episodes each week with invaluable contributions from alternating co-hosts Matt Humans and Adam Burke. And then there's the VSiN Hockey Betting Podcast featuring Danny Burke and NHL betting expert Andy McNeil. They cover all things hockey twice each week. They're all free and available now at VSiN.com/podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. And hope you were able to hear all the new VSiN shows that kicked off yesterday. We get tweets at Beating the Book. Always appreciate the feedback. Always appreciate it. Where do I begin? Frank Doyle. Billy Levi's? Why haven't we locked into Billy Jeans yet? He doesn't like your Will Levis nickname, Kelly.
That's fine. Everybody's allowed to have their own.
You're allowed to have your own.
I'm Billy Levi's.
Mm-hmm. WCGR. Did I miss the tennis dog? Might have turned it off on accident, digging into work. LOL. Yes, Taylor Townsend, plus 140 against Lone Stevens. Pat Taylor at PT's Best Eggs. Adele Fosmu was fantastic. Chrissy Andrews' book, My Brother. Easy page turner, hoping Chris writes more like this. So talented. I couldn't agree more, Pat. I would go on, but I already did this morning. I'm so impressed. It was so well done. Adele Fosmu, My Brother, available at Amazon, or check out Andrews Sports for a quick link to get the book. Bobby Geddes. I like how earlier you said, stay tuned for when Kelley Bydlon reveals his pronouns. I'm still waiting to find out if this was a head fake.
All of them. I'm selfish.
It's all the pronouns.
I guess.
Okay. We'll just use Dave Dwyer. Help me make sense of this tweet, Kelley. At Double Questberry, he says, a numbers game is the only VSiN program carried by my cable provider here in New York. I'm missing out, but thankfully we have your show, Gill. What?
I don't know how that's working for you, but
that took like 3 turns.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm glad to hear, maybe.
Jason H11 chiming in. He goes, at home due to snowstorm that won't stop. Just texted my boss, I'm Galladay to make it in today. That's awesome. Adam Burns says, sudden money on C.J. Stroud for the first pick. Who posted a new useless mock draft to get some clicks? And Jay Green points out, look what you started, Gill. Did I do that? No useless mock draft, Adam Burns. That might have been us. And this one is from Charles in Connecticut. What you just said about Tankapalooza after the All-Star break, I thought about Tankapalooza 2023, but came to the same conclusion. As the standings and lottery rules are, there is no incentive for the bottom 4 to tank this year. So nice to hear my thinking lines up with the master. I think he's calling me the master there, Kelley.
I think you're the master because you kind of jumped in front of what I was saying.
Yeah.
Correcting me.
I was like, hold off, Kelley Bydlon.
Caution.
Caution, yellow light.
Yellow light.
Do we have our guest ready?
Yeah, Mike's ready.
Oh, we do. Mike Renner, everybody, from Pro Football Focus, their lead draft analyst. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Hey, Mike, listen, we used to do a show, Kelley and I, at night called Primetime Action. You were kind enough to join us on that. So I just want to ask you in advance, on a scale from I can't stand it to I love these questions, are you open to a Bachelorette question or two before we get into the draft?
I am a little dated at this. I think that was like 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, it was. 2018.
I'm just curious about a couple things. One, how heavily I don't know if fakely is right. How heavily produced? In other words, how much of this was authentic? That you were just going after the Bachelorette of that period, and it was just a free for all, or was it like producers pushing you along to do X, Y, or Z?
I will say pretty much everything you'll see on the show, like conversation-wise, they put you in a spot and told you to talk about. There's very few stuff that's really organic in that nature where it just came up, So I think that's one of the biggest things that was eye-opening for me. But I will say, like, they will suggest you do things. You don't have to do things, but like you pretty much, a lot of the actions are you're still your own. You're still pretty much in control. And some guys are more open to persuasion than others.
That is an outstanding answer. I think we've broken some news here this morning, Kelley.
Yeah, that was a great answer.
Michael, exit question before we get to the draft, Mike. Were you heartbroken that you didn't get the girl in the end, or were you thrilled to be off the show?
I will say it was nice to go home after that. It was a relief to not be to basically just like have modern technology again. So you don't have a phone, you don't have TV, you don't have anything while you're out there. So it's like coming back to society. So that part was a relief, but I was hoping to, find love. I was there for the right reason. So that part was disappointing.
Mike Renner, full hour on The Bachelorette tomorrow on the show.
I was going to say, we need like 3 more segments that he doesn't want to do. But
yeah.
I didn't know they were like sequestered like that.
I didn't know that either. You didn't have a phone? Oh, it's torture. Jeez. All right, Mike, let's talk some draft. I know it's a come down from the Bachelorette talk, but let's talk some draft. How does this feel right now? If the draft were being held today, how do you think this goes at the top?
I think we see quarterbacks go quickly. I think if the number 1 pick's getting traded, I would be very surprised if it doesn't. And then I think you see QBs go 1 and 2, unless the Bears obviously trade with the Texans. And then I think you see Jalen Carter and Will Anderson in that order be the first 2 position players drafted. So I feel confident about that. I couldn't tell you for sure which quarterback it's going to be, but I do think at the moment that's how I see it going. 2 QBs in the top 4, probably 2 position players in the top 4 is how I'd expect it to start.
By the way, for those watching us, this is Mike's latest mock draft, which is from a couple weeks ago. So he will reserve the right to change on his next mock draft. But right now it's Young and Levis at the top, followed by, as he just mentioned, Jalen Carter and Will Anderson going 3 or 4, the Bears in a projected trade. If I said how many, and you know these things, we can bet on them, Mike, as I'm sure you are well aware of. You can follow Mike at PFF_Mike at Pro Football Focus as the lead draft analyst over there. If I said how many quarterbacks go in the top 10 and the number were set at 3.5. Is that an over?
I think I'm leaning over at this point. I truly am, just because of kind of where those fringe guys, or what those fringe guys have. I think the guys you would expect to be drafted in the top 10, I think C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, I think those guys going top 10. I feel confident about that. But then Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, they have the arm talent, the mobility. They have all those tools that the high-end guys in the NFL have that someone's going to buy into. And so I would lean over at the moment just because of that, and then the desperation around the league. I don't think we're going to see the quarterback carousel we quite saw last year, where everyone ended up finding their guy and then there was really no more need. No, I think there's going to be a bunch of need around the NFL for the quarterback position when it's all said and done, when kind of the chips fall. And then you'll see that obviously playing out in the draft.
Yeah, and I was going to say, isn't that the macro statement? We can't emphasize it enough that these teams, perhaps somewhat justifiably, right? You're nothing in this league without a great quarterback. That they'll covet, like Anthony Richardson, if you talk to the average college scout, will be like, yeah, he's not going to do X, Y, or Z necessarily in the pros, but some team will just fall in love because they're that desperate enough, and he will go top 10.
Yeah, and it's not too dissimilar from taking a Trayvon Walker last year, number one. It's that guy is not, he's not a complete pass rusher. He wasn't an elite impact player at the collegiate level, but what he could be is kind of what everyone's thinking. I think a lot of people are more accepting of maybe not necessarily worrying about how they play the game right now and buying more into it, especially at the quarterback position, buying more into what they could be in our offense as opposed to the offense they ran in college, and with our talent and with, 3 or 4 more years of development, because so few guys really hit the ground ready to play in the NFL quarterback position. So you might as well bank or bet on those guys that can reach that very, very high end that then wins you Lombardi.
Who's the first wide receiver to go, do you believe?
I think it's going to be Quentin Johnson. I'd be very surprised if it's not Quentin Johnson at this point. He's just athletically in another stratosphere from the rest of those guys.
What do you do with Bydlon Robinson? Does someone take him first round?
Oh, someone's definitely going to take a first round. I think he might even go higher than we want to admit right now, just because he's special. And a lot of teams are still just, I don't want to say set in their ways, but they still are willing to take a running back in the first round, say it's an easy W, you can point to his stats, he's good, we hit on that pick whatsoever, even if the value proposition has been proven over again and again that it may not be there, and that we see teams win with, our running back by committees again and again, the NFL level. Someone's still going to try to go for that bell cow guy. So I do think he could go even as high as 8 to the Falcons, just because the Falcons are obviously the run-heaviest team in the league last year.
Wow.
They want that Derrick Henry and Arthur Smith offense. I could see that being the case with him. Don't think he falls past the mid-20s.
Yeah, Falcons right now, DraftKings actually has who will draft Bydlon Robinson from Texas. Their standout running back. Falcons are the 4th short shot at 9-1. The Eagles at plus 250, the Bills at plus 350, and the Cowboys at 4-1. Obviously, reports of Zeke's legs being shot, something we've kind of seen before our eyes the last few years. Not really a newsflash. They have the Cowboys as the 3rd short shot before the Falcons. I'd love to ask you more draft questions, Mike, but one of us decided to ask you Bachelorette questions to eat some of the time, so I do apologize. Thank you,
all
Mike.
right, fellas. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it either way. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Mike Renner, Pro Football Focus, lead draft analyst at PFF_Mike. I think we broke some Bachelorette news, Kelley. Get this to the Newswire, Stat, AP, UPI, whatever they do now.
A numbers game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks, unleashing the spirit of Las Vegas with BetMGM rewards. Every time you make a wager at BetMGM, you can earn BetMGM rewards points so you can redeem for online bonus credits like bonus bets and bet insurance tokens. And if you're planning a trip to Vegas, well, you can also convert your BetMGM points into MGM rewards points that you can use towards dining, shows, and hotel rooms at over 20 MGM Resorts properties located on the Las Vegas Strip and nationwide. BetMGM Rewards, sports betting's premier loyalty program, featuring exclusive offers, incredible experiences, and valuable perks when you wager on the BetMGM app. Sign up with BetMGM or log in today to get an even bigger piece of the action with BetMGM Rewards. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years of age or older to wager. New and existing customer offer. All promotions promotion subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire in 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Skill Alexander, John Balduzzi tweets in, reality TV side note, my wife and I were on House Hunters. I get asked about it all the time. When there's a random rerun, I get texts and DMs from friends I haven't seen in 25 years. Meanwhile,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry for we might not all love every reality show out there. Like, how many episodes have I watched with a Bachelorette, Gill? I don't know. Not a single whole one.
0.5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's still fascinating. It's like when people ask you about your job, right? They get you have an interesting job. So when people do stuff like this, I want to talk about it.
You sent me a great tweet here. This made my morning. This is from Dan Rappaport, who does golf over at Barstool. Dan Rappaport, he says, finally got around to listening to Max Homa on Pardon My Take, and when he said he'd serve matzo ball soup at his Masters Champions dinner, I legitimately almost shed a tear. Dan Rappaport, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, Dan Rappaport does Golf Digest. He's Golf Digest, but was listening to the Barstool podcast.
Oh, I thought he had Barstool in his little bio there as well.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, yes, he is doing stuff. Mm-hmm. Never mind.
Yeah. No, that's by the way, that's exactly what Max Homa should have if he wins the Masters.
That'd be awesome.
Exactly what I would have. Anyway, shout out Max Homa. Leaflet. All right, Kelley, there's a couple things we didn't get to. We sort of motorboated over a few things. One was this NBA division talk you wanted to talk about. You want to talk about the Southeast Division. Yeah.
This is a game last night. Miami Heat. I'm just going to bring this up. This team is not good. They did beat the Sixers last night. Another close game. This was their 13th, I believe it was. They are the Minnesota Vikings, by the way, of the NBA this year. They have won. Let me pull this up.
13-7, I believe, is their record
in one-score games.
Yeah.
I think they got their 14th last night, and it's most in the NBA.
Oh, I thought that was 13 last night. But either way, it's more than 4 games better than any other team who's won one. Like it's 4
right,
more
that's
one score
what it is. Yeah, 4
wins.
games better. You're right. That's what it is.
Yeah.
13-4. That's what it was. So anyways, this team, we talked about it, JVT and I, heavily on Hardwood Handicappers yesterday.
Let me just say that again. Their 13th win in one-score games, 4 more than any other team in the NBA. Let's just make sure we're clear about that.
So this is a team. I'm just gonna take you through what they've done in the past 17 games. They're 9-8 over that span. But if you look at some of the teams that they've beaten, we're not talking about some of the premier teams in the NBA. We're talking about some bad teams. What they beat. They have one of the worst offenses in the league in that time. They continue to struggle to shoot. Last night they were playing a little bit better. I know the season's getting shorter here, but you've got Quinn Snyder coming in now for the Atlanta Hawks. I think he's going to make a major difference. Probably not just him individually, Gill, but I think the fact that they're going to get any change at all is going to help the Atlanta Hawks. And you're talking about a 1.5 separation from these two teams right now. Here's what the Southeast standings look like. 1.5 game lead for the Miami Heat, and they are minus $3 to win this division. I already have bets on the Hawks from preseason to win this division. I might be adding on. I think plus 250. The schedules are pretty similar down the stretch, but you're talking about one or two heads up game between these two, and right away the Hawks are in the driver's seat. So I'm going to shop around today, but this might be a bet I end up adding on to a little bit.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention the elephant in the room, which is, ladies and gentlemen, many of us have Orlando Magic bets to win the Southeast Division. We have it at 150 to 1. You know what that number is right now, Kelley?
Yeah.
125 to 1. Huh?
Big win last night. Huh? Big win last night.
Look at us.
All right, I'll tell you, the one I'm really sweating, Gill, it's my biggest bet of as far as money that I've outlaid, right? For a bet is the Magic over 28.5 win total. So every win is big from here on out. They picked up a W last night against the Pelicans. I was sitting there cheering on my couch a bit. Yeah, I think we're probably dead in that one. But I think the Hawks are really live in this market. It's one I'm going to probably add on to today. And then the other one I typed up, and we could switch over to the Pacific Division, guys. This is just, with the LeBron injury adding on, this is going to be a fascinating one to watch down the stretch here, because they've got the Suns favored 3 games behind the Sacramento Kings, because we all expect that Kevin Durant's going to come back and this team's going to be playing a whole lot better. And then you've got following that, you got the Clippers 3.5 games out. They're plus 450. The Warriors 4.5 out. They're 20-1. Now,
the Kings are plus 180 to win that, huh?
Yes, 3 games up. This is a team that's been doubted all season long.
How about that game this weekend?
Yeah, I know.
Nuts. For those who missed it, an unbelievable 176-175 win over the Clippers in double overtime.
And that's their season in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Obviously not games like that, but what do they do well? They are a premier offensive team in the league. Like, there's no doubt about that. Anybody who wants to argue that, get out of here. They are one of the premier offensive teams in the league. They suck at defense. That's what's been their problem all season long. So I don't have a bet in this one, Gill, but I don't, even if there were strong Warriors fans out there that were like 4.5 back, 20-1, like, okay.
The Warriors are that betting anomaly, but it makes complete sense. The Warriors are longer shots to win their division at this point with a short runway than they are to win the title.
Correct. Yes, correct.
20-1 to win the division, about 16-1 to win the title, I believe.
The other thing I'll bring up quick, because I thought this was a great point from JVT yesterday. Noted Clippers fan, where we were discussing about Pelicans' chance, because I've still not counting out the Pelicans because we haven't seen Zion on the floor. If he gets back, he gets healthy.
He doesn't play basketball is the problem.
That's the problem. That's the current problem right now.
Yeah.
The one I will give, JVT was like, well, I don't think you can count them out yet because you haven't seen that. He admitted the one he's starting to worry about is the Clippers, because these guys have been playing together now, and they haven't really put together these solid stretches that you're used to seeing from championship level teams throughout the course of a season. So
even that Nuggets game they played right after the Kings game, they were way down, and they got it to overtime, and then they get crushed by 10 in OT.
Exactly. So they're kind of a team I can't really figure out. Like, I'm still pretty high on them, but it's reasons like that, Gil, why we keep saying the Western Conference is so wide open, is that teams like the Clippers haven't stood up.
Are we sleeping on the Warriors? I never sleep on the Warriors. Let me just point this out.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm saying when I say we, is the collective basketball, media, or anybody who follows the NBA, are we sleeping on the Warriors because Steph is not back yet? We're not thinking about him. But if Steph comes back in due time, has a little run up to the postseason, whatever it is, could they just, if any team can just gel instantly, it would be them.
It's absolutely them. Totally. I'm not counting them out. I don't think people are sleeping on them, Gil, because I think basically everybody out there is saying what I'm saying. Right? It's the West is so wide open. Right. Who are we really talking about? Like, the Nuggets probably aren't even getting enough credit as they deserve.
That's probably
for
true.
What they've done.
That's probably true.
And it's not because we haven't seen Kevin Durant on the court yet. Nobody's freaking out about the Suns. They were when they signed him, right? But we haven't been sitting here for the past 3 weeks saying, "Oh, it's the Suns championship or bust." So I don't want to say anybody's sleeping on them, but that is where the play-in tournament in the Western Conference could be complete chaos this year. If you have teams like a healthy Warriors and a healthy Pelicans in the play-in tournament?
The play-in tournament in the West right now would be Golden State 7 playing Utah 8. The winner gets the 7 seed. The loser would then play the winner of the 9-10 game between Minnesota and New Orleans. But that's literally like right at this moment because Portland and the Lakers and Oklahoma City just on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
How about OKC getting in there? That would be awesome.
And SGA, he's missed a couple games due to injury, and those odds have just, whew. Marketing's like minus 250 or something.
For most improved?
Yeah.
I don't think that reflects reality.
I don't think it does either. But SGA's missed a couple games. I think that's the only thing that's made these odds shift like crazy.
Well, we start with LeBron. We end with basketball as well. What was your pick in the NBA again tonight?
I have a Mavericks and Jazz moneyline parlay.
By the way, Mavericks, we don't even mention them.
I had to remember who the Spurs were playing.
By the way, Mavericks, do you give them any shot to make a run in the postseason?
No.
I don't either. Not at all.
A run in the postseason, yes. A run to the NBA Finals, hell no.
Well, what I mean by run is to the conference finals, I don't.
Maybe.
That's a run.
Sub 10%.
There you go. That's about what I got bet. All right, Taylor Townsend, let's get it done. We've done all we could do. Lombardi line next with Stormy, Bonnet, Tony, and Joy from VEASAN, the Sports Betting Network.